as you'll find in any sales career, right? The old saying is the riches are in the niches, right? That's where you'll really, really outperform the general market that's competing with you. Hello, everybody. It's Sean Moudry. We're back for the second episode. We should just start lying about this, about the number of episodes. We're on 1175 episode of the Sean Moudry Podcast. And this podcast is just a place for me to be able to share some thoughts and hopefully inspire some salespeople to do a better job, provide better service, and really find success and happiness and fulfillment in sales. And I'm not alone. I am with my co-host, producer, Mo, who is in Cairo. Say hello, Mo.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Mo, Sean, for the introduction. So yeah, this is the 1200th episode of the Sean Moudry Podcast.
Right.
And we're doing this just for fun. And we're doing this also because part of the sales process is talking. And sales is all about talking with people. So this is what we love to do. And this is what we would love to share with you guys today.
Yeah. There you go. You realize, one of my nicknames is, some people call me Mo because my last name is Moudry. Your name, we shortened to Mo, right, to make it easier. So we could just change the name of the podcast to Two Mo's.
I think that's a good idea, yeah. Mo and Mo.
Mo and Mo.
Or Mo.
So today on this episode, what the conversation that we got into, that Mo and I were just talking about, that we're going to bring forth today for you and to bring you guys into is, if you're starting your business today, right? And, because I've been in real estate sales for 26 years. I've run brokerages. I've been coaching for about 11 years. And I've had some fairly measurable success, as you can see I have a couple plaques behind me, to represent that for you guys. So it's not just me sitting here saying I've had success. So you guys can see that there is actual tangible evidence of success that I've had in my career. And so the question is if I had started today in sales, no matter what sales, it doesn't matter if it's real estate sales, insurance sales, financial services, car sales, whatever business you are. Maybe you're a small business or you're an entrepreneur and you're starting up a small retail shop or even a bakery, right? It's all sales, right? If I was starting up today, what are the things that I would do to build my business starting today? All right? Did I get that topic right, Mo?
I guess so, yeah. You're doing a good job.
You're like, yeah, it sounds good. Let's do it. So obviously, the sales landscape has changed massively, right? In 26 years. We were just talking, how crazy it is that, to create the cover of this podcast, right?
Yeah.
I talked to Mo. He's in Cairo, Egypt. He reaches out on Fiverr and gets a guy in Belgium to help him create. This podcast is world produced. This is a world produced podcast with 2 viewers, my mom and my sister, but the world has brought it to you today. So let's get started. So the landscape today is so different, right? And there's opportunities today that were just really unheard of 20 years ago. So if one of the things I want to kind of break down for you is the difference between prospecting and marketing, right? And so what I call it is I call it active prospecting, because those are the actions that you take. And then there's passive marketing. So passive marketing are the messages that you're putting out that are going to resonate with your customer, that's going to draw them to you, okay? And all solid sales businesses have both an active prospecting and passive marketing metrics. Okay. So there are two different things. Okay. So we're going to break them down into two different things. So, a lot of times when you hear people in sales, they talk about the word lead generation, and it comes across like this blobulous, very, untethered word, right? Like it can be, does that mean I'm making cold calls? Does that mean I'm door knocking? Like, what does prospecting mean, right? Well, we're going to kind of break that down today. And to add another layer to it is when it comes to marketing, is marketing only when you're spending money, right? Because I used to believe that. I used to say, well, marketing costs money. Today, marketing doesn't cost money, right? And I suppose in some ways, even 20 years ago, marketing didn't cost money. So those are the two concepts we're going to walk through today. And I'm going to tell you exactly what I would do if I started in sales today. And again, doesn't matter what sales, doesn't matter what it is. Do you have any questions on that, Mo?
No, so far so good.
All right. So that was my elbow. That was not my butt. Yeah, that's interesting. We'll be editing that out,
huh? No, we're not.
We're leaving that in? Okay. All right. So to get started, let's go ahead and break out the unique things that are available to us today that are really, truly on the forefront of sales, right? And these are things that people don't always think of about sales, but they still are sales, right? So when we talk about passive marketing, right? So passive marketing could be an ad that you run on the TV, right? Yeah, the TV, people still do TV ads. It's still a thing. That is a marketing thing. And because it's passive, because you can't necessarily measure how many people are going to contact you through that ad. And to be clear, I am not a fan. I'm not a fan. You're going to hear this a lot. I'm not a fan of branding marketing, okay? If you're Coca-Cola, right, Mo? If you're Coca-Cola and you got a $2 billion budget, you can spend your money on branding, right? But if you're starting a sales business, do you think branding's a great idea if you're starting a sales business?
No, I think it's not a great idea because you're still figuring out things, and I think along the way you will determine that some parts of your brand or business that will need some adjustments. Maybe your logo isn't as isn't like communicating the message from the beginning, so you will need to get back to that again later in the near future. So yeah, I do agree with you personally that focusing on branding from the beginning is not a thing, but having it as a long-term goal, yeah, I totally agree with that. But initially started, no.
I think that's well said, man, because you're right. When you're starting off in a sales career, you might not know what direction your business is going to go. And we're going to talk about this a little bit more specifically about, getting into a niche, right? Getting into a niche versus a general marketing plan. And that's probably an entirely another episode. That's a totally separate episode. But as you'll find in any sales career, right? The old saying is the riches are in the niches, right? That's where you'll really, really outperform the general market that's competing with you. So developing a niche and your logo and your branding to that niche, right? That's very important when you're doing that. And when you're new, you probably don't really have a good idea on the niche that you're in yet, right? You might want to test the niche, or you might have an idea. Yeah. And when I say niches, I mean a demographic, that's a group of people. A geographic, that's a general area, right? An industry in general, that you might specialize with a specific type of industry, or even a business or a company, right? A specific company. You might.
Yeah, it could be also a psychographic, meaning people who are environmentalists, maybe something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we'll cover that later, but let's get back into this passive marketing understanding. So when we get into passive marketing, we're going to break it down really into two separate categories, paid and unpaid. Okay, very simple, paid and unpaid. So paid is going to be, your Facebook ads, your Google ads. It could be your Instagram ads. It could be newspaper ads, radio ads, any of those things, right? If you're advertising on YouTube, that's all paid advertising, okay? Paid advertising. And then you have free ways in order for you to market, which is you posting or creating content for social media. That could be you creating content for your blog. That could be you creating content for a YouTube video that becomes a podcast, as Mo and I are doing, right?
Yeah.
So, believe it or not, that this podcast that we're doing is very specific to a type of customer that we are looking to attract to our businesses. So our messaging is directed towards a specific type of customer, no different than your business should be communicating to a specific type of customer. But here's the difference is blogging and vlogging and those types of things are relatively free, right? Posting on Facebook is free. Creating video content for Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, if you're doing recordings on Clubhouse or a podcast, they relatively are free. Of course, there's some cost to production. There might be some cost to host your podcast. What do we spend, Mo? Like $12 a month on our podcast?
Yeah, that's too much.
It's a lot. It's the majority of our budget.
Yeah.
So these are things that you have to consider, right? So we're going to separate those two, free versus paid. Which one's better? Neither, to be honest with you. Neither one's better than the other. One takes a little bit longer to generate the result than the other one. And it's very simple, because when you're doing paid advertising, unless you're focused on branding, it's all CTA, call to action type advertising, which is, I'm going to place this ad and I would like the customer, the audience who's watching this ad, to respond in a specific way, okay? And why are they responding, Mo? Well, like, what are they responding to?
They are resonating with your message. They want to know more about you.
They want to know more, and specifically, they want a specific result, right? So a call to action is always going to provide them a result, right? Something that they want in return. So you have to think about the customer with the end in mind, right? When you're doing marketing, you always have to focus on what is the result that they want to get, and how do I show them the result? Now, that doesn't mean, like, for instance, in real estate sales, right? The customers, when they see an ad for a house, they don't want to talk to a real estate agent. That's not what they want. They don't want to get qualified for a loan. That's not what they want.
Yeah.
They want one thing. What do they want?
They want the house.
They want the house. They want to see the house. That's it. They don't want to talk to you. They don't want to get pre-qualified for a loan. Now, what do we want? We want to talk to them, qualify them, and see if they're a client that could actually qualify for the house, because we don't want to show them a house that they can't qualify for, right? Very simple. Mm. So what we actually want from them is different than what they want. Now, if your ad said, click here to talk to me to get pre-qualified, to get qualified for a house, and then over time you're going to get an opportunity to see a house, but that house that you're actually clicking on is probably going to be sold by the time you see this, by the time you get through talking to me and getting qualified for the loan, they're not going to click the ad, right? So yeah. Marketing is always driven towards result. What is the result that the audience wants, that the audience that you wants, right? The audience that you want to attract, what do they want? And that's what you're getting them to click your CTA with, okay? So that's marketing. On the other side, when we talk about free marketing, it's the same thing. Why are people watching your Facebook posts, your Instagrams, your TikToks, right? Why are they reading your blogs, listening to your podcast? Because they also want a specific result, okay? They're looking for a specific result. So your blog, vlog, podcast, those kind of things need to speak to those results, okay? So that's the world of passive marketing, okay? That's the world of passive marketing. When you talk about prospecting is your outbound energies that you're spending to communicate. Now, we call it active prospecting because we do have the ability in prospecting to control the result, okay? And the way this looks is, if you think about, if your goal is to, let's say you sell hazard insurance, right? And you want to write 5 policies this week, and you're brand new. Let's just say you're brand new. You're sitting in the desk in the insurance office, and you're saying, okay, my goal is to write 5 policies this week. Well, you can blog, but you're probably not going to get a response right away because you don't have an audience yet, right? They haven't built up. They haven't had trust. They don't know really who you are. You could do a Facebook post and maybe get some inquiry or some interest, but you can't necessarily control the results of getting 5 leads, right? So what do you do? What would you do, Mo? What would you do in that situation? You're an insurance agent. You have to write, your goal and your must is to write 5 policies this week. You're brand new. What do you do? What would you do?
Okay, so we're talking about prospecting, right?
I don't care. How would Mo go about solving this problem?
Okay, so for this part, initially I have to define what is my audience. So if the price of the policy is, let's say, $10,000, just for saying, okay, so I need to know which demographic or psychographic or niche that are able to pay for that, right? So these are the first things that I'll start doing, is working on my client avatar, defining who is my audience, who is the person that is capable of buying this product that I have, and start looking through the niches, looking through industries, looking through all the possible directions that could lead me to the person who is having this buying ability of my product. So that's the first thing that I would do, is work on my client avatar. And then the second thing that I will be researching is to try to ask myself, okay, if I am this client, or if I am this person who is in this niche or this psychographic or whatever, how does my day look like? Where do I spend most of my time? Do I spend most of my time on let's say Facebook? Do I spend my time on YouTube? Where am I online? If I am planning to market online, where am I online? So this is one of the things that I'll be researching about.
Yeah.
And
so let me pause you right there, because you're getting a little ahead of me. I don't want to get too far. Because what I'm trying to do is define active prospecting versus passive marketing. I totally agree with you. But just to button up that point I was trying to make, is the way that you the way that you go out with prospecting is, if you need to set 5 policies this week, through prospecting versus marketing, you have control. Because let's say your conversion ratio, let's just say you're brand new and your conversion ratio is horrible, okay? And for every 50 people you talk to, you convert 1. Even so, with prospecting, you have the ability to still write 5 policies just by simply talking to 250 people. Now, talking to 250 people is a lot of work, right? And maybe you're door knocking, maybe you're going business to business, maybe you're doing small events and seminars or webinars or whatever you're doing, but it's going to be a 50-to-1 ratio, but that's still within your control, right? And if you're sitting there thinking right now, how is it possible to do that? How do you do 250 contacts, in a week? There are people that do that, right? It's not impossible, right? I mean, I've been teaching prospecting for 14 years. It's not even that difficult. It's just understanding, like you were saying, identifying the client and the systems and the processes that allow you to do that with efficiency. So it is, but with prospecting, you can control the result. With marketing, we can't control the result. That's the only point I really wanted to just nail there before we move to the next.
Okay, that's
topic.
interesting. I have a question for you. So what if, as we were saying, I'm someone who is starting out, so I do not even know what my conversion ratio is. So
Yeah.
what would you recommend in that case?
How do you think they find out?
Yeah, you never know until you try. Yeah.
That's the only way. Everybody's conversion ratio is different, and it changes over time.
Yeah.
Sometimes your conversion ratio gets better. Sometimes I've seen people's conversion ratio get worse because of their energy, their personal situation. They get overly efficient, right? And so they start to become short in their conversations and less focused on the connection or listening to the customer, and more focused on just trying to close the customer, and the ratio will drop. So measuring your ratio, extremely important if you're prospecting. If that's the technique you're going to follow to generate business, it's extremely important. But let's jump to the next conversation, which is, so now we've identified prospecting versus marketing. We've identified paid marketing versus free marketing. Okay. So now the conversation that we were having, Mo, which is, what do you do next? So which one do you decide? And exactly what you were saying is exactly how I would solve that problem too. So going back to what Mo was saying was, think about who needs your product or service, right? Who needs the product or service that you're selling? What are they going to use it for? Why do they need it? What specific result are they trying to get? And why are they trying to get that result? You got to get into your customer's head. You got to think about that situation. So one of the, one of the challenges many real estate agents have, and I think that this is probably true with insurance sales. I know this is true with car sales because I have a good friend who's a car salesman. He's extremely successful, right? And he kind of, beats everybody because of this. Is a lot of salespeople think, I have to try to sell to everybody in the industry. So in real estate, they train you in real estate. They train real estate agents so horribly. Like, it's the worst training. It's anybody who wants to sell their house. Doesn't matter where it's at. Doesn't matter what kind of house it is. If it's a house, a condo, beachfront, riverfront, golf front, street front, whatever. Anybody who wants to sell a house, I work with. Any area that I legally can work in, I'll work in. Any situation, either wealthy or poor or no money down or cash or whatever, any investor, any blah, 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 because it's this desperate, wide net. I'll take anything. Give me something.
Yeah.
Right. And that desperation is communicated to your clientele. So, I mean, it's like walking. This is how stupid it is, Mo. This is how stupid it is. It's like walking into a restaurant and you sit down at the table. And the chef walks out, comes up to your table and says, what would you like for dinner? And you would say, do you have a menu? Right? And the chef says, I'll make anything you want. What would you
Sounds like Denny's.
Like Denny's. You don't even know what Denny's is, dude. Have you been to Denny's?
No, but YouTube taught me about it.
Is there Denny's in Cairo?
No.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, you would think, here's the first thing that would go through my mind. All the food's going to taste like shit, right? It's all going to taste like shit. Because there's no way any chef can make any food and there's no way that in the kitchen behind you, you have all the equipment and all the food to make anything that I want, right? So that's the way salespeople think. So if you're in insurance sales or car sales and you go out and you think, I'm going to sell to anybody, right? Everybody drives a car. Everybody needs a car. Well, sure, maybe. But you don't market and you don't send your message to everybody. You have to define for yourself what part of the industry, that the demographic, the psychographic, the geographic, the industry or company do you want to focus on? right? And then how do you message to them to deliver them a result that they can't get on their own, okay? So I have a friend, Mike, he's a car salesman, super successful car salesman, right? And here's the thing, he works in a GM, so they sell Chevys, GMCs, trucks, SUVs, cars, whatever. He's the top salesman, okay? Guess what he sells?
1 million a year.
Oh, I don't know that, but I'm saying, what type of vehicle do you think he sells? He could sell cars, sports cars, SUVs, trucks. He can sell commercial type vehicles. He can sell vans, all that stuff. I mean, the lot has everything on it, right? What does he sell? What do you think the best selling car is that he sells?
I would say either GMC or Chevy.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying, like, what type of vehicle? You have cars and cars.
Oh, yeah, SUV.
Work with me here, man.
Sorry about that.
like small, efficient cars? Is he selling small, efficient cars? Is he selling sports cars? Is he selling small SUVs, big SUVs, pickup trucks, vans? Like, what is he selling? To be the number one salesperson year over year over year over year, what does he sell?
I would say efficient cars and SUVs.
Yeah, right. Because that's what a lot of consumers drive, right? And both of those are demographics. Both of those are great demographics. But it's not what he sells. He sells plain white trucks. Just white pickup trucks, vans, and commercial trucks to businesses. Because here's what he figured out. He figured out the plumbing companies and construction companies and all these people, they need trucks, and they drive the hell out of them. And these trucks are always wearing out, and they're always breaking down. The other thing is the U.S. government gives discounts and tax breaks when businesses buy commercial vehicles. And he also understands the tax benefits and exactly how to amortize the tax benefit. So in some cases, these guys can get 100% write-off on a vehicle. So they almost get it for free, right? And because he understands that, he calls small businesses and says, is it time to upgrade your fleet? So he doesn't sell one truck at a time. He sells 5 to 20 trucks at a time.
Wow.
Right? So while all these other salespeople are chasing around these customers on the lot, trying to get them to test drive the latest Chevrolet shoe car for $19,000, he's over here and he just sold, 10 pickup trucks for $25,000 to a local plumbing company, right? So he kills it. So how did he figure that out? Is he thought about who in the industry needs these vehicles? Who in this industry needs a specific result? They want to save money, right? Money on maintenance, money on taxes. They want to provide their employees better experience being an employee by driving them around in a brand new truck versus driving them around in an old beat up old wreck truck, right? So he understands his customer and what their needs are, what their pain points are, and he communicates only to that, okay? Only to that pain point. And that's how I met him, to be honest with you, is because real estate agents, right, we're self-employed, okay? And I can't remember, I think somebody referred me to him. I think that's how he found me. And he sold me a $47,000 Yukon Denali, right? And at the time, because it was over 6,000 GVW, I was able to write off 100% of it. So I had basically a free truck.
Wow.
Not really, but it felt that way. And I wanted to upgrade my vehicle anyways. And so it was smart. And then once I was in his loop, okay, once I was in his customer relationship management system, right? That's what I call it. Your relationship management system is how you're going to retain your customers. he would just call me all the time, check in, how's it going? How you liking the Denali? Hey, I've got this other car that you might want to come check out. Come check this one out, right? Come check this. And he would just give me a car and I would just drive it for like 2 or 3 days. And then I just bring it back. I'd be like, I don't want it. Or that's actually a really smart technique because I bought like 3 of them.
Wow.
So that's exactly what Mo's talking about, right? Where Mo's saying, what would you do? Mo went right to the actual answer, which is you would identify the customer. Okay. You got to identify the customer.
And this is very interesting because the example that you've mentioned right now, your friend, he is not just thinking of his customer avatar. He is also thinking of another thing that is very important from my own perspective, which is the customer lifetime value. He is thinking of that, working on that, and I think he's doing a great job.
Yeah, I mean, well, obviously he's doing a great job. Yeah, he's doing really well. So, yeah, I do think that people overlook, especially in car sales. I mean, I've owned a lot of cars. I'm kind of a car guy, right? If you know me, I tend to buy cars and sell cars frequently. I like muscle cars, sports cars, trucks. I've had some pretty cool vehicles in my life, and I'll tell you, I bought a lot of cars from car dealerships in the past where I've never heard from the salesperson again, right? And why is that, right? Why is that? Because that salesperson had no intention of staying in the industry. That's the That's the number one reason people don't follow up with their clients.
So these guys were just in it for the quick buck.
For the quick buck,
basically.
Yeah. This is what I'm doing while I'm going to grad school. Right. And once I get out of grad school, I'm going to go become a whatever you do when you get out of grad school. Right.
Yeah.
My friend Mike, he's a car salesman. That's his identity. That's what he does. That's what he focuses his time, energy, and attention on achieving and doing. Right. And I think in a later podcast, like write this one down, Mo, that let's come back to that subject and really, really dig deep on how to find that commitment and passion in the industry you're in. Because if you're feeling disconnected, or maybe you got into a specific industry and you thought, hey, this is going to be great, and then it's a little more difficult than you thought, and you think, maybe I should give up, or maybe it's not right for me. Let's dig deeper into that, because there is a path out that will lead you to the success and the rewards that you want. But it's not an external journey. It's an internal journey, right?
Yeah.
You got to go in on that one, not out. The solution's not external of you.
Yeah.
Okay. So going back to finish this conversation, put a bow on this. Again, exactly what Mo said. Identify the customer. Identify the needs of the customer. Understand what their pain points are. What are they trying to achieve? What are the things that are driving them crazy? Now, how are you going to know, right? That's a reasonable question. How are you going to know? Through your own experiences. Think about if you were in their situation, right? Like, this is the difference between empathy and sympathy, right? Sympathy's like, I'm sorry that happened to you. Empathy's like, hey, I get it. I've been there. Now, maybe my situation wasn't identical to yours, but I can relate on a similar aspect. So if you think about your customer in a way of, if I was in their shoes, what would my pain points be? What are the things that I'd be dealing with day to day that are frustrating? Okay. Maybe you're right. Maybe you're wrong, but you know how you're going to find out by talking to them. Okay.
Yeah.
When you start talking to them, they're going to tell you, you say, oh, is this a problem for you? And they go, nope. Move on. Okay. So once you identify those things, now the question is, what do you do to communicate to that clientele, right? It's that simple. And when we think about lead generation, I just want you to think about all lead generation is communication. That's all it is. Plain and simple. Lead generation is communicating your message to a specific demographic with the intention to achieve a specific result. Okay. Very simple. So you're communicating a specific message to a specific audience to generate a specific result. And that doesn't mean that 100% of the people you talk to are going to buy from you or respond to you. That's not your goal. Your goal is to find the people that need the solution that you're offering. Right? And if you think about lead generation that way, if you think about sales that way, it's a lot easier than trying to convince everybody, right?
Mm.
Like if I talk to somebody and they're say, like in real estate, and I say, hey, I've got this great investment property. It cash flows $300 a month. Are you interested in investing in real estate, or have you ever thought about investing in real estate? And they go, I have no interest in investing in real estate. I don't sit there and try to convince them to invest in real estate.
Yeah.
I would move on, because you know what? There are other people out there who are already convinced that investing in real estate is the right thing for them. So I'm not going to sit there and spend time trying to convince somebody to do something that they're not ready to do. I'll just find the ones that are ready, right? And when the other one's ready, I'll be here. And guess what? Because they know I'm here and they know what I can do. So when they're ready, they'll find me. But I don't have to spend all this massive time trying to convince people or, use the right script at the right moment, right? So anyway, and here's the thing. I'm a script person. I like scripts, and I think that scripts do help, right? It helps the sales process. It helps your conversion ratios.
It helps keeps you organized.
Keeps you organized.
Yeah.
It makes the experience better for the customer, all those things. So I'm not making fun of scripts, but I'm here to tell you 9 times out of 10, the script isn't your problem, right? It's your messaging. That's your problem.
Yeah.
It's your messaging, your demographic, the way that you're communicating your message.
Yeah. And to touch on that point too, on the message and all of this stuff. So we have been talking about, okay, so if I right now know my audience and know what they want, and I know the message that will be resonating with them, the question is, how do I find them online? So this is also dependent on what you have recently mentioned right now, is by talking to them, by asking them. So it all goes back again to taking action, doing things, doing this cold call, sending this cold email, sending out this postcard, just doing action. And then, but doing action without tracking what you are doing is a disaster. So you need to be also tracking what you're doing and tracking the results of what you're doing in order to try to identify and then later on craft a message that will be resonating with your audience, just like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
When they your face, oh yeah, that's the guy of yeah.
And truly track everything. You track your conversations, track, like after you do an appointment or a presentation, right? Or your pitch, whatever you want to call it. Go and do a post-mortem where you look back and you say, okay, what did I say? When did I say it? What were the results? How did they respond? Right? Like when I said this, how did they respond? When I said this, how did they respond? Where did I lose them? Where did they bring them closer to me? Right? And do a post-mortem on those things too, because your presentation, right? Your presentation pitch is also something that you need to track, because you can't, if you're just pitching something new every single time, everything just kind of spitballing, then when something works, you're not going to be able to duplicate it. It's kind of like a chef going into the kitchen and just throwing together a meal. The worst thing they could do is throw together a meal and make an amazing meal. Because if they didn't track how much paprika did I put in there? How much salt, how many pounds of chicken did I use? If they didn't track all that, they can't duplicate it, right?
Yeah.
And they end up with this amazing meal. And that's the worst thing. That's the worst thing that can happen for a salesperson, is they go out and they have success and they don't know why or how they had this success.
Yeah. I've been there myself.
Yeah. You know, there's this concept in sales called the last touch, right? And so a lot of times salespeople, they go, oh yeah, I met some, you know, I was at a dinner party and I was talking to somebody and they said, oh, you know what you know, I want to buy a house. And so I'm going to go to more dinner parties. Well, that's the last touch. What was the first touch? When was the first time this person heard about you being in real estate sales? How many touches happened between that first touch and the last touch? Because something in those touches convinced them that you were the right choice for them, right? It wasn't the last touch, right? And so if you don't look at all those things, you can't duplicate the process, right? If you look at those things, you might find that there's one consistent touch that if you add to all your plans, you increase your conversion, okay? You increase it 100 times, 1,000 times. It doesn't, you know, it's amazing, right? When you figure that out. Okay, so to finish this conversation, because here would be the question I would have if I'm watching this podcast right now, right? Would be, well, Sean, what specifically would you do to lead generate? What would you do to lead generate to start your business, to get those 5 appointments? And this answer is not as easy as you think, because number one, it depends on how fast I need to have income coming in. Okay. So if I'm commission-based sales and I have to have income coming in right away, I'm going to focus on active prospecting techniques first. Okay. Because passive marketing techniques, either paid or unpaid, take time. They take time. And your message doesn't always hit, right? And so you see agents, and when I say agents, I truly mean like insurance agents, real estate agents, financial services. They pay for ads. Well, they're new, they get into the business and they pay for ads, and they don't have the ability to even convert a lead yet, right? So now they're spending money to learn, right? It's like, which is fine if you have money to spend, but for most people that are getting into a new industry, they don't have the money to spend, right? So I don't love that technique. At least if you're prospecting, you still can control the number of appointments you get, and you can practice on those, and it's not costing you money. And so you're developing the skill of prospecting, and you're developing the skill of converting without spending money. Okay, so it's real easy. So if I was starting in this business, number one, if I was starting in a sales business and I needed money and I needed results, I would focus on active prospecting first, with a plan to build my passive marketing, my free passive marketing through my social media over time. Okay. And again, just like Mo and I were talking about, focusing on a specific demographic, geographic, industry, psychographic company. Okay. Focusing on a niche, focusing on a client avatar with my messaging. So every time I did a post, it would be, I'm speaking to that person, right? That's who I'm talking to. Not everybody. Not anybody who needs hazard insurance. Not anybody who needs a car. Not anybody who needs financial services. Not anybody who needs to buy or sell real estate. But a specific client, right? Now, going back to what I would do prospecting wise, if I'm a hazard insurance, if I'm selling insurance and I have to sell 5 appointments this week, okay? For me, and you know, there's this person that wrote this book on this strategy, right? It's called 16 Strategies for Sales, and it's identifying your personality profile with your sales strategy. It's a really good book. It's really good. It's like New York Times bestseller, right?
Yeah, I wonder who wrote this book.
I know. It's got like 7 reviews on Amazon. It's amazing. It's a great book. But my personality type, I like results, right? I like to achieve results. I like to have measurable results. So for me, I want to do something that I have control of. I'm more on the extroverted scale than the introverted scale. So I don't mind being face-to-face to people. So I would probably literally go door to door. I would probably literally, do you like how I put those two? I'm a linguist. over here. I would go door to door and start talking to local businesses and seeing if I could get an appointment with the manager in order to review their policies, right? It's free. There's plenty of businesses in the world. Every business I know has insurance, and every business I know is looking for a way to save a little bit of money. And the other thing is, I've been an entrepreneur for 27 years. I'm always underinsured. Always, right? Because I'm cheap. So if somebody comes in and reviews my policy, I guarantee you I'm underinsured. So that's what I would do. I would do that, but I would do that because, I identified businesses as a clientele, and I would focus on a geography around my insurance office, businesses around my insurance offices. And because of my personality, I'm somebody who likes efficiency, and I'm somebody who is on the extroverted spectrum, and I prefer face-to-face than over the phone. Okay. But that's me. What you have to figure out is what's right for you. Right, Mo?
Yeah. I think that's very well said. And yeah, again, it's the whole idea is so if we are going to be recapping right now what we have mentioned so far. So we have been talking about prospecting versus marketing. We mentioned that there are two types of marketing: passive and free. Passive marketing, I'm sorry, it is paid and free. We've also mentioned prospecting. We've also mentioned some ways that we can use to start prospecting. But most importantly, we've mentioned the first thing that you need to do before you start thinking of either prospecting or marketing is focusing on who is it that you are selling to, who is it that you want to sell to, who is it that really needs your product or service. So focusing on that, number one, and then trying to figure out where you can find them, either online or offline. And back again to what you've recently mentioned, this is dependent on your own personality. So as Sean, he is a person that likes to be on face to face, but to me as Mo, I'm a person who is a little bit like to be in the shadows. So I would prefer online. I would prefer
That's
finding
funny
my
you
clients
saying
online.
that, considering you're kind of in a shadow in your video.
That's a sign to confirm what I'm saying.
Yeah. So your preference, Mo, would be, as it is, right? Because that's how I found you, is to market yourself and have people responding to you, right?
Yeah.
The challenge that people face, okay, because I think we just really have to nail this, is the challenge that people face is it's a slower process to market and brand than it is to prospect, okay? And healthy businesses have a little of both, right? They have a little bit of both. And it's not to say that you don't prospect, because you and I have done prospecting together, right? You and I took a list of, I don't remember what it was, 7,000 real estate agents.
Yeah.
And threw them in a power dialer and just dialed them up, right? So that's prospecting, right? That was calling somewhat cold leads. They had inquired on our website, and we did a follow-up call to 7,000 leads. But that's prospecting, right? That's prospecting. So you understand that even though it's not your preference, there are times where you have to flex out of your preference in order to achieve the result that you want.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
And also, one more thing that I really want to mention is that, and this is something that I always tend to mention to you, is what I always say about whatever is measurable is scalable. If you know where you are right now, you can tell where you can be 1 year from now, 2 years from now, depending on the way you measure it and the way you identify or define what success is to you, and then putting out some certain KPIs in order to measure the success of this, and working towards it. So again, whatever is measurable is scalable. In addition to all of this, you also need to be tracking what you're doing.
Yeah, you got to track everything for sure, especially when you're new. Until you understand what your ideal demographic is, your conversion
What works best for you,
your scripts, yeah, your methodology that you're lead generating, what works for you.
Yeah.
Because I've taught people, like I said, I've taught people, a lot of people prospecting. And I know some people who their conversion ratio is off the chart, right? Just amazing. But they don't enjoy it, right? They'd rather do something that's less efficient and enjoy their career than sit there and do prospecting calls. Like specifically, this gentleman I'm thinking of, he was averaging one appointment for every 75 dials, right? Which is really good in real estate, right?
Yeah.
That's really good. So one appointment for every 75, meaning for every 150, he's getting a contract. And each contract, the commission is, between $6,000 and $12,000, right? So that is really good. I mean, those ratios you can make, you can be making 20 to 20,000, 25,000 a week, right? Like that's good money. So, but guess what? When he called, the best time for him to call for him to get those conversion ratios was the evening between 6 and 8 o'clock at night. He is very conversational, very calm, and to keep people on the phone for a long time. So it took him a long time to make those 75 dials, longer than the average person. Okay, so he's on calls longer, which probably is what led to his high conversion ratio. But he hated it. Guess what he loves to do? He loves to door knock. Ugh.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
So instead, now the way he generates, and he's extremely successful. I want to be clear. He's extremely successful. In order for him to maintain his enjoyment for the business over a long period of time, he prefers to just door knock. So he'll door knock his neighborhood and the neighborhoods where he has homes listed for sale and just have conversations with people. His conversion's not as good. It's less efficient, but because he enjoys it and he consistently does it, his business is still very successful, right? So it's the consistency of task over time that's leading to his success, building a massive database of people that refer him and like him and those kind of things. But if he would have stayed calling in the evenings, he might not be in the industry anymore. He might have just said, I just don't enjoy this, no matter the money that I'm making. Just a thought.
Yeah. So let's again recap everything right now. So
I interrupted your recap.
Yeah, I know, and that's fine because whenever we're talking, we just keep throwing things that just flow in our minds, right? Valuable things, hopefully. Okay, so if you are a person who is starting out today in sales, here's what you need to do. Number one is identify your customer. Identify your the best customer that you want to work with. Identify your again, the industry, the business, the whatever it is that you want to call it. But I call it the client avatar. So this is the first thing that you need to do. Number two is to then, based on your research on your clients, is to identify two things. Number one, where is your client and how are you going to be reaching them? Number two is what suits your personality best. Do you like doing the cold calls or do you like going face to face? And again, as Sean mentioned, in some cases, and especially if you're a person who is starting out, it is recommended, I would say, to do both things and then later on decide what you want to focus on more, what you want to focus your time and energy more doing, so that you do not lose this kind of passion about what you're doing, but it still be a profitable business. I think that's all. Do you have any last thoughts, Sean, to share?
There's one other thing that you just triggered for the conversation, which is the variable between, making a call, or when we talk about active prospecting, it doesn't have to be a call. It can be text, it can be LinkedIn Messenger, Instagram Messenger, Facebook Messenger. It can be any type of two-way communication, okay? Email, two-way email, not a blast email, two-way email, right? So you send them an email, they respond to your email. That's a two-way communication, okay? So that all can be prospecting. If you're loading 700 names into your mail merge and hitting send, that's not prospecting, okay? That is passive marketing because you can't control the result. But if you're sending one-off emails one at a time, introducing yourself, talking about your ideal client specifically and their situation, that can be considered prospecting, okay? And then the other thing that I think you can also determine is, do you want to work from your sphere out, or do you want to work from the outside in? So for me, kind of a funny thing is I much prefer to work with people that are outside my sphere, right? Like, instead of, like, when I started my career in real estate sales, I started at 21 years old. My friends were in this, my friends were poor from a little trailer park where I was from, right? They're not buying and selling houses. So I had to develop my ability to convert people that didn't know me, right? Cold leads, right? But training a lot of real estate salespeople, sometimes they prefer to work with people that they already know, like, and trust them. So I think that's another determination too, which is, what is the method you're going to use? And then, are you going to focus on people that you don't know first because you prefer to, or do you want to work with people you know first? And make that determination.
Well said. Very well said. Okay, so I think we covered everything so far for today's episode. Again, as the previous episode, if you guys have any questions for Sean, you can go ahead on LinkedIn or Twitter, #AskSean, and we will pull it out and try to respond to it as fast as we can in the upcoming episodes.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.